Welcome everyone to Autogefühl, your #1 resource for in-depth car reviews. This is Thomas today with the all-new Renault Kadjar, and it will be a very important car in a general perspective. First, it doesn't seem like that, but I'm telling you it will be. Because Renault wants to be #3 in the SUV sales in Europe behind the Nissan Qashqai and the Volkswagen Tiguan. First of all, you might think, okay, that won't be possible, but it will be. Well, why? First of all, this car shares actually 2/3 of the parts with the Nissan Qashqai. Nissan and Renault have a cooperation there. From the outside, however, it is way different, and there are also slight changes on the interior, and I think you will be very surprised about that. So let's start with our review here: exterior, interior and the driving. Let's start with the very contemporary front end. You see this new Renault design scheme here on the front. It all sets sails on smile, a very friendly car face indeed. Now the side profile is very interesting because it reminds us a little bit on the smaller brother of this one, because this one here is the compact SUV segment, and Renault wasn't really so successful with the predecessor model, with the Koleos, and so they also say, okay, it's not really the successor because we want to rather forget the Koleos. However, there's a smaller model also, the Captur, and from the design, especially on the side profile, they look kind of the same, so they have a equal design scheme in here. The length in here is 4.45 meters, so it's also, as you see, a little bit longer than the Nissan Qashqai, and that also already differentiates the car a little bit. So as it's longer, we also have more space on the trunk and also in the rear compartment here in the interior. And what is especially about the design is here with Renault, you see the rear window is going a little bit slimmer. That makes the car a little more agile, and this part here, the shoulder part, is very strong, and that makes it here a very strong appearance here, especially in the side-back profile. In the rear we see the name. It's actually a combination of a lot of things. It's even too complicated to explain, but so they mixed a lot of kind of different verbs and nouns to get this Kadjar name. I'm not so sure about the naming of this car, but however, let's look at the rear. You see the 3D effect lights here, they go deep in there. And so again, we have a rather contemporary design here at the rear. So I think this car, just from a design aspect, it really fits to the modern needs or the modern thoughts of how actually a compact SUV should look like. Or what do you think about that one? As for pricing, and that really gets interesting, this car starts at 20,000 euros, here with a small petrol engine with 130 horsepower, but I wouldn't recommend that engine because it's probably not too strong enough for that kind of car. We already had that one in the Nissan Qashqai and it wasn't really that good actually. So 20,000 euros as the entry price in Germany, for example, and then if you pick this very car here at the top trim level with the Bose sound system, also 19-inch alloys, you end up with 35,000 euros, and that's still rather a good deal, and I think that also can outnumber the Volkswagen Tiguan. However, from driving and the interior quality, I can already say the Tiguan is still a little bit more on top of that, but the price here is better, and so it will make a lot of problems actually for the Nissan Qashqai in the first place. Why? I'll show you soon in the interior. And what else I have seen as competitors, for example, also the Kia Sportage or the Peugeot 3008. And they really have to look out because it's actually a quite good deal, and we are also keen on the interior. We'll soon show you now. Life, Experience, X-Mod, and here the Bose Edition. That is the top trim level then. And for example, we got the keyless entry. We have to press the button here, and then we can open the door. Actually feels quite solid. Also, well, when closing the door, that sounds a little bit cheap. It's not that well isolated as, for example, the German cars when closing the door. There you see, for example, one difference. But then let's look at the interior. Open the door here, and you already see just from a visual side, they have really improved that one to, let's say, any other Renault model. Of course, there's also the new Renault Espace here. That video, this review is also linked in the description. That is even more classy from the interior. But I mean, we are still in a compact SUV segment, not too expensive here. See, everything is visually, at least, already very well done. A very good combination between fabric on the inside and artificial leather on the outside. Perfect combination here. Contrast stitches we also have there. You see the sides a little bit soft. That is not the highest quality, but it looks already quite good. And everything else here, see, for example, this cover on the dashboard, or the steering wheel, or the buttons, I'll soon show you, or the middle console with this aluminum cover here, that really looks good. And we haven't seen it from Renault so far, and they've really worked on the interior quality, and that really pays off here. In the Bose Edition, you got 19-inch alloys on the outside, and on the inside, of course, the Bose speakers, the sound system, and it has a really great sound. I've just tested it, I can just recommend it. So on the right hand, I can also turn on the ignition, you can see more. Right hand is the information for the fuel, and I see the speed digitally right in the central part here. Then this unit here above, again, a very interesting surface we see here, and also very clean on the visual side with these applications here. New 7-inch control screen here with the R-Link 2, Renault calls that way. And also just from the knobs we turn here, it's not the most high class, but actually feels quite good. So it's, let's say, solid and okay. I think this car is really unpretentious and solid. That's the first impression I get here from the interior. Let's check how the system works here. The reaction times that you've seen have been improved, for example, for the GPS. Let's show you the map, how that one looks like. And it's actually also possible to use it smartphone-alike, that I can zoom in and out. And that actually comes close to the current habits people have because they're using smartphones. And I'm quite okay with the reaction times here. However, it could be the reason that it's a pre-production car we're testing here. We had one failure of the sound system, so the battery had to be cut off and set in again the computer of this car. It was restarted and then the sound was working again. Just interesting background information if you have such a problem once, so you can also fix it by this means. So, and just browsing around here a little bit, I've also connected my iPhone here with a telephone, just with the Bluetooth. That was actually, and then for the sound, that was working quite fast as well. Let's check what we can do here. For example, we can put different driving assistance, for example, the lane warning system or the emergency braking system. I can turn it off, but why should I? Just leave it on. So you can just see how I can browse the menu and finally show you some apps. This is the R-Link store. You can get personal apps for this car. So far not so many on there, just a calculator, for example. Maybe 1 + 1. It's 2. Well, I didn't believe that. So that is the GPS overview. As I said, climate control actually feels quite good. That's actually quite weird. For some functions you really have to turn on the engine. Here that you can see how this one is solved here. It's maybe not a little, I would prefer it if it's a little bit brighter in here. That would have been actually quite good. But the quality of the buttons is really okay. And in my opinion, better than with Nissan. And so if you take a look at this whole interior, I would definitely go for the Renault Kadjar and not for the Nissan Qashqai. And that will be a crucial factor in selling. Storage spaces, starting with the glove box, sliding down softly, that's good. Actually also quite a lot of space in here. Then small space at the inside of the doors. nice grab handle here, a panic handle for the Go driver with forks leather, very well done also. Then something here, for example, for a smartphone, also USB that you can load your smartphone. Power supply 12 volt in the central part here. Let's move on further, just for coins, or maybe when you go shopping. Kind of old school, but I'm not sure. Are you using this one? Then quite shallow cup holders here. So the beverage shouldn't be too big actually. But there's also another solution, because right down in here, it's actually split in two levels. Here for just some small stuff, purse. Then if you put the other button right here, there are two buttons here, 1 and 2. This is split here in that kind of way. Then there's a huge area here for a big bottle, for example. There's also a holder that you can actually store the bottle right there. Then the optional panoramic roof, what is quite weird, I again have to turn on the engine completely to be able to open it. That's weird. And then it's not to be opened like at all with the glass. It's just a panoramic roof with a slide. So I would prefer, same as in the Qashqai, I would prefer something that can actually be opened. But again, it's a nice panoramic roof, even if it cannot be opened. So it goes all the way until the back, also for the rear passengers. Let's switch it up to the rear compartment, and there we can see another advantage that Renault Kadjar has in comparison to the Nissan Qashqai. We have more space here. As I would be driving here 1.86 meters with a relatively tall driver already, still got a lot of knee space. And I mean, it's still 4.45 meters in the car. It's not too long actually, but we have a lot of space here really. So I'm very satisfied, and it's actually quite comfortable here also in the rear compartment, because we're not leaning back like in the sedan. We're really also sitting upright here. So as an adult, perfectly fine here. And the head space, it's got this kind of space left above my head, even if we're here with the panoramic roof. If you have like 2-meter people here in the rear compartment, then you should maybe leave out the panoramic roof, and then you get even more headspace. But still, with the included roof here, it's still quite okay. So I really think this is very positive here in the rear compartment. The only cheap thing we actually find here are at the inside of the doors, front and the back. That's really just black plain plastic. But everything else is really has a lot of improvement in the interior quality, and we already see that here from a good overview from the rear. So very versatile so far here, and will this continue also with the trunk? Let's find out. The additional length in comparison to the Qashqai also plays a role here in the trunk then, because we have more space, and you see especially goes deeper in. Actually loading still is quite practical, and you see they created an even loading space by a trick. They added this as additional space. Behind this one, by the way, is just, it's a little bit hard, the compressor for the tire repair kit and the Bose subwoofer. But then just this small space is really to even out the whole loading area. And you can just leave it out and leave it at home or whatever, or leave it in, and then you have this even loading space. And you see we've put some stuff in here. It really goes way in there, very good to use. And an additional good feature is that it's easy to flip the seats. You just pull this lever here, here's the symbol, and then it slides automatically, and you see we got the even loading space. You can also do it with the other sides. You see this 1/3, 2/3 split. That's really actually a good solution. Let me just see. Very easy also to remove the cover here for the trunk. And there you have a lot of space for all your ideas or whatever you want to transport. Let's look beneath the hood here. Autogefühl hydraulic dampers check failed. We don't have any. And now I really have to search for the lever to hold that hood up. Do you see it? Give me a hint where it's actually possible to put it up. I don't see any at the moment. It might be because it's a pre-put. Ah, there it is. Thank you. Okay, that was actually a quite tricky thing to put it up there and then it's actually stored here below. You wanted to fool me, didn't you? Why didn't you tell me earlier? Okay. So this one here is the engine I would actually recommend. It's a 1.6 liter diesel with 130 horsepower, the top engine that is available for this car here so far, because the other diesel, 1.5 liter with 110 horsepower, won't be strong enough. Even for this one, I can already tell you now, it could be a little bit stronger, but I think it's quite a suiting still for the car. And the petrol engine has also 130 horsepower, so it will be also weaker than the diesel engine and only 1.2 liters of displacement. So really go for that one here, and now we are going to test this one in a driving experience. So let's start driving here, the new Renault Kadjar. Manual transmission and the diesel 130 horsepower. I can already tell you now, go for this diesel because actually the petrol engine is not stronger in acceleration, and the weaker diesel with a little bit less of displacement and even less horsepower won't do good either. So I already feel it now here when we're driving kind of slowly. That's actually, well, there could be a little bit more power. That would actually be desired by me already now. Well, the manual shifting, the lever feels quite long actually when shifting, and a little bit of loose. So it's not that kind of tight shifting lever we know from other manufacturers, for example, like Volkswagen. And I also sometimes when I go to the second gear, got a little bit of resistance in here. So the shifting process actually could be a little bit better. So maybe I would like to test the automatic gearbox at some other time, if that's maybe better in this case. So, as I said, I already feel now that the diesel could have a little bit more power, but I think it's still quite okay because the car isn't also that heavy. And so this is definitely the engine to go for, so it's also good that we test this one here today. So see, we can get out of this corner here. Now see, it takes time, and now the turbo sets in. Quite loud, the diesel as well. So yeah, I would dream of a more evolved diesel, maybe with a little bit more power. There's actually one with 160 horsepower in the all-new Renault Espace. Also check out that review, linked in the video description. That one would be maybe a very suitable one for this one here. Maybe they will introduce it later. That would be actually quite good. So about the steering then, we are now on the countryside roads. First of all, we do feel that we are in an SUV. We got this higher seating position. We also feel that we are higher on the road. And from the steering, it's not that actually direct, not really sporty, but that's also not the task of this SUV. And we feel still, although the car isn't too heavy, that we're getting a little bit pushed to the outside in the corners. And also the steering has to go all the way then. So we got rather long steering ways here already here for that corner here, for example. I think it's still quite okay. It's not the most agile car you feel here, and there are surely more fun cars in the city and also on the countryside. But generally the riding is kind of relaxed. As the steering doesn't react that fast, you also tend to relax a little bit more and don't do so many maneuvers then. So now we're going downhill. Let's see how it goes straight. And about the suspension. Now the road is very plain and flat. And then, of course, the suspension also doesn't have to work that much. Let's accelerate it in the fourth gear. Well, I think it's quite okay still for the motorway. Not the best, but still quite okay. Now this right-left test here again. We got a lot of moving to the right and the left, as we also expect here from this compact SUV. Let's say in the Volkswagen Tiguan you have a sportier ride, definitely, and the ride itself also feels more classy. So in general, I think, how does it feel here? Generally solid, I would say. Also, if you compare it to the biggest competitor now, the Nissan Qashqai, as we've told you earlier, 2/3 of the parts are identical. But then again, I think I do feel better here actually in this car. I want to turn to change the temperature now, make it a little bit colder. Well, it's a little bit placed below here. I could have it a little bit higher, especially when driving. It would be actually quite nice. So now again, some more dynamic testing. Doesn't feel that good to drive fast in the car, I can tell you so far. I think it's really more like a city SUV, and therefore it's really suitable. It's very solid. Everything is kind of has a good overview and got a lot of practical solutions, as we've seen in the interior review actually. So I was really astonished about that, and also about all of the quality they've worked on. So if you ask me from seeing it quality-wise and also from driving, I would go for the Kadjar here now and not for the Nissan Qashqai if I had the choice. And I think it's still a good price-performance ratio in general, even if we've also had cars that were feeling a little bit better when driving here. About the overview, actually it's quite good because all of the windows are kind of going steep upwards, so we don't have to moan about that. I would like to open the top roof here now, but that's not actually possible because it's just a panoramic roof. It is nice to have a panoramic roof, yes, but I think it's even better if you can also open it. But as it's the same with the Qashqai, we have to get used to that one. You see, I have to turn the steering wheel quite a lot when I change the direction here now, but it's not that heavy actually, so you get along with it quite well. So also the turning circle is quite okay, so it's actually quite a flexible SUV here for the city. And the overview to the front is also very good. You see a little bit of this design on the hood, on the left part. That's actually quite astonishing. In general, seating position is also upright, as we know from an SUV, really good because you don't get back pain then, even if you have problems with your back in general in the car. So that's also one reason why I prefer SUVs, because I tend to get some back pain in very low cars riding them, and so it always feels very good in an SUV then. And I think as you experience here the car now, it's a very good solution for not spending too much money and already have all the advantages an SUV is offering, like the higher seating position, the comfortable ride here on the long term, and also the flexibility, having a little bit higher car, in this case 19 centimeters ground clearance, so you don't have to be afraid maybe going up a pavement or something like that, or if you have a road to your own finca or whatever you need some off-road clearance for. And then again, of course, that you have basically a lot of space in here, and the car itself also feels a little bit more spacious. It is actually than the Qashqai, so you also have more space for the rear passengers in here. And yeah, in general, I also feel quite comfortable on these seats here. I've explained to you earlier this mix of fabric and artificial leather, Volks leather on the outside. Very good visual part, and also it now feels very good while driving, so I can't complain about that. So in general, I must say they have really built a very solid car here. A good package here considering the price. So what does our conclusion say? Actually, the all-new Renault Kadjar was a big surprise. And I think the Nissan Qashqai it will be very hard for this model to keep up the success. In Europe, by the way, it's at the moment the most selling SUV, and maybe the future one with this one, because the interior quality is really better than with the Nissan Qashqai. The driving, the suspension is a little bit softer, and a lot of people really like that. And I think also from the exterior they have created something more sensual here than the Qashqai, and that's also the main competitor, although they have this cooperation with, you know, Renault and Nissan. Against the Volkswagen Tiguan, well, in Germany that won't work because it offers even more quality, and especially the driving experience even better with the Volkswagen Tiguan. And Tiguan is the most successful SUV in Germany. That will stay the same. Well, and the Honda CR-V is the most successful SUV worldwide. That will also remain the same because the Renault will, of course, so far not be that successful outside of Europe. So, and then, as I said, the exterior quite essential. I really like that concept here. Interior quality has really improved. Huge step forward for Renault, so well done there. Of course, there's still a difference between, for example, the German manufacturers here from the interior, but they're really keeping it up. As for driving, I actually had quite some fun with it. It's not the most fun vehicle in the corners, it's more set on the comfort really, or for the longer journeys, especially because in the rear compartment you also have a lot of space here for the rear passengers. That was also quite amazing. So another advantage, because this car is a little bit longer than the Qashqai. But what do you think? Would you buy this car? Would you prefer it in comparison to the Nissan Qashqai? Or would you rather pick the Volkswagen Tiguan or the Kia Sportage? Tell us in the comments and what you thought about this car here from the exterior, interior, and about what I've told you from driving. And I hope to see you at the next Autogefühl episode here with Thomas. Thanks, guys.